Hello, everyone out there. It's so nice to be with you on this mid-winter day. It's beautiful and sunny here in Florida, and our hearts are always warmed up and ready for you to come down here and join us. And we're going to be doing this on and off. Just keep your eyes open and your ears open, and we're going to keep giving you more information. We're getting thousands and thousands and thousands of requests and questions from all over the globe every single year. So now we're going to start to pop in on you and help to resolve some of those. We have about 30 minutes this time, but we'll get as much done as we can. So the very first, we have Vivian Amar, and she is facing, seemingly, or somebody she knows is facing breast cancer. And so what do? What's the first step? Well, number one, you've got to get rid of all animal-based foods and sugar. So that means eggs, that means dairy food, that means chicken, fish, red meat, pork, you get it. Anything that comes from an animal, the excretions from the animals, dairy food. And that means yogurt, yes, they've convinced you that's healthy and it's not. It's one of the top cancer causers, all dairy food. And secondly is sugar, and I think sugar is probably the most vile thing that you can give the body when in fact you have any form of cancer, virus, or bacterial disease. Next, you have to go on to a raw green plant-based diet. Sugar is not only contained in little containers on your kitchen table or in honey bowls. All of those are sugar. They're the obvious sugars. But in fruit, there's fruit sugar. And by the way, there's good solid science that fruit sugar feeds cancer, the fructose, more than any other form of sugar. Next, on the green diet, raw. Now, why? For 70 years, tens of thousands of people have reversed cancers here at the Institute, the oldest institute in the world that has done progressive healthcare, is because we give them raw, uncooked, green plant foods, sprouts, etc., green vegetables, etc. Obviously, always organic, ecological, biological. And in that, you have the magic of the universe. And I mean the magic of the universe, it's scientifically documented. I write books, a series of books on that called Food is Medicine for the academic community. If they just bother to read how important this is. And in there you have phytonutrients. That's why thousands of people have come here and successfully reversed and prevented things like cancer. So the next question we have is from Dova. Can first-degree AV block caused by blood pressure medication be reversed? Now, remember, what that medicine has done is suck out of your body nitric oxide. And if you're over 26, nitric oxide isn't produced in any significant form in your body. So we've got to supplement with it. A number of years ago, I worked with a triple PhD. So together we had 4, me only 1. And we basically figured out how to create a supplement that was plant-based, raw in great part, and activates your own body to produce that 23, 24-year-old nitric oxide, even at 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. And that's called Life Give Circulation Max. Needless to say, you can't keep clogging your veins up with animal fat and sugars. When your body eats sugar, it produces cholesterol. So these are the culprits that give you these problems. And blood pressure, if it's not caused by kidney concerns, and that's only about 5% or so, is caused from lifestyle. Exercise has part to do with this too. And after you've had a collapse, as you're suggesting here, you can reverse it. Remember, the body constantly regenerates itself. It never stops redeveloping. The next question we have is from Julia. What do I recommend for someone experiencing long-term COVID? Well, what we do here is we put you in hyperbaric chambers. One of our colleagues, a medical doctor, top homeopath in West Coast of the United States, created a supplement package of homeopathic medicine we've been using successfully here for now 3 years, called 19 Detox Kit. If you've taken the vaccines, you need 3 of those kits. If you just have long COVID because you've had the virus, 1 or 2 kits. If you've had the virus and find no symptoms, you don't need any kits. Just lifestyle, healthy lifestyles. Hyperbaric chambers we use constantly. That's going to promote oxygenation of the blood cells in the body, which is where the spike proteins are hiding out and causing this so-called long COVID. Notice, people, you've never seen any long virus like this one that was manufactured and intended to do exactly what it's done: weaken the global population long term. The next question we have coming in: is it possible to reverse osteoarthritis rather than just reduce pain and improve mobility? Lynn. And let me tell you, when I met my beautiful wife on an April day in 1978 in Stockholm, Sweden, when Ann Wigmore and I were doing a 3-day conference, I instantly fell in love with Anna Maria. She was directing the world's #1 center for reversing arthritis. And guess what? People from the United States flew there. People from South America, people from all over Europe and Africa flew there because they were getting over a 90% success rate. Now, unlike here and many other countries around the world where you have to fight the government to fight for your life, over there, the government at that moment was actually funding her center. So Swedish citizens could come in, they did the research for her, et cetera, for free. You were a Swedish citizen. And guess what? You can reverse osteoarthritis. Like the past question, the body's constantly regenerating. Once you allow it to regenerate with the nutrition, the hydration, the exercise, the therapies, the treatments. Here we would do electromagnetic therapy treatments, which are actually approved for post-operative healing and fractures. The next question is, are cataracts curable? And if so, this is a Tina. Well, cataracts are in the early stage. Now, every once in a while, modern medicine figures out how to do something pretty well. And in late stage, you are not going to dissolve them. And I'll explain what a cataract is and where they're more common than not. But in early stage, where you're just getting it, you may not even know you have it, a doctor may tell you. These are deposits of minerals and fats, saturated fats, that come through the eyes, which is a channel of detoxification and elimination. That's why every day you get up, the Sandman came. It's really the mucus man that came. And when you put fresh wheatgrass in there, you strain it, of course, you actually are going to start to dissolve that. You also can do the Dr. Bates eye method. The last I looked, that's in over 30 languages. Dr. Bates was an MD that figured out how to get the eyes back to normal. My 98-year-old father-in-law actually still reads without glasses because he does Dr. Bates' eye method. And where does this happen more commonly? In the Sun Belt. So if you live in Spain, you live in South America, Mexico, California, Florida, you're going to have double, listen closely, double the amount of cataracts. Why? Because the sun is detoxing your eyes more so than in the northern climates where there's less sun and more cold. So the next question is, how can someone digest issue transition to a vegan diet and a raw food worsen symptoms? Well, number one, your body and every other human body on the planet and every other creature on this planet was built to eat a 100% raw diet. They say, well, that's not what Dr. Schmuck said on the University of Bolshevik. I don't care what he says. We share this planet with 8 million other known species. In nature, 100% of those species eat 100% raw diets. Here at the Institute, since 1956, we've had the sickest and smartest people in the world show up and go through our programs. And guess what? We put them on a 100% raw diet. There's no one who cannot eat a raw diet. Now, if you have diverticulosis, diverticulitis, Crohn's disease, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, we have to present it in a way that's user-friendly for you. So we may have to initially blend it, certainly juicing it. We use probiotics, other therapies and treatments. And more important than anything else, we can reverse these things. I've seen thousands of cases of colitis, Crohn's disease, diverticulosis, diverticulitis, and easy things like irritable bowel syndrome, which is a large name for many different little subculture things. But you have to really learn how to do this well. You wouldn't go to the same table and eat the same food that I'm eating. You'd actually have to know which foods. Like sprouts, as an example, are super easy to digest since they're pre-digested. Going to the next question. How can household mold affect health, and are there easy ways to identify or avoid them? Well, the easy ways, Amy, are that there are really good tests today that even delve into the genetic disposition you have to process mold or not. And many people don't have that genetics to really have the ability to get rid of it. Here's what I'm going to tell you, that our medical director, Dr. Josh Hellman, is one of 40 world experts. There's only 40 people on the entire planet now that's a mold expert. So we have programs for this and tests for this, and there's no way that you don't find out if you have the mold, and no way we don't know what to do once we find out you have the mold. This is reversible. But my God, this plays out a plethora of disorders. It is catastrophic, and very soon we're going to have to force mainstream medicine to teach this in school, because many, 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 many thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people have mold toxemia, and the doctors don't know to identify it, even the best doctors, because they're not trained in this. What can you do to heal vitiligo? This is by Healthy at 50 and Beyond. I don't know who that is, but 50 and beyond sounds young to me. So this is something that really is an inner ear problem. And when you have the skin involved with it, you literally have a miscommunication between the spleen and the nervous system. So what we do is we actually have certain herbs, certain treatments, and in our energy medicine department, we use units like the Tesla unit, not the car, the advanced type of energy medicine that actually takes your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, aligns it so that now we have the frequencies that go there that take away the miscommunication to pigmentation and inner ear concerns. What changes have occurred at Hippocrates Wellness since 2008? An awful lot. Remember, the evil empire locked the world down, and we never closed. As a matter of fact, we kept going. We had guests here. People were in here for 6 months, stints at a time. They didn't want to go out into that big, bad world. We were able to do things that nobody else on the planet did, and grow and develop and improve our programming here. And my God, I had more time to read then than normal. I usually read 20 hours of science a week. I was reading 40 to 50 hours at that point. Because when you have, a third of the guests or less than we had, it was easy. So there's a lot more to come back and see. And as long as you're open-minded and ready for the future, that's where we are. We're not waiting for the future. We're creating the future here. What is the most effective approach to losing postmenopausal weight gain? Well, it's certainly not taking a drug that has a side effect list that's larger than 2 of my arms put together. So what we do know is that this is a hormonal imbalance. So what we do is we have a supplement called Life Give Hormone Power. I created 30 years ago that's been very effective with that. Obviously, the dietary needs are going to be very clear. Plant-based in great part, if not totally raw, all organic, because in a book that Anna Marie and I wrote just 3 years ago, The Self-Healing Diet, it was all about weight loss. You may want to read that book. It talks about the latest science on all of the different factors that create that. And we address hormones, sleep patterns, diet. And in that book, we show that all of the diets ever out there that became popular were scientifically validated or not validated. What came up number one? The Hippocrates Living Food Diet. It is the diet that reduces the weight the quickest, healthiest, and most effectively. How can someone on a plant-based diet determine their supplement needs? And is annual blood work sufficient? Judd, no. Blood test for very astute people who have done this a long time get a little bit out of it. The average person who doesn't even know about nutrition will get nothing out of it. So we've been using something here called the SpectraCell test, which looks at what you're lacking currently, what you're close to lacking, and how your body processes things genetically through something called methylation. So I cannot emphasize that enough. You may want to do a consultation with me, get that blood test. You can call in here. I've been doing those now since the early 90s when they first hit the medical market. Debbie, how can you lower A1C naturally when you're already eating well and exercising? Well, all determines what eating well and exercising is. I know one thing, I've never worked with a type 2 diabetic who didn't recover. So it is 100% correctable. There's no disease called type 2 diabetes. So whatever you're eating, it may be cooked plant-based foods that turn into sugar that are not going to do what you need to do. You have to understand that there's many different factors that well-intended, good doctors, some of them well-seasoned, even well-credentialed, don't really know it because they're stuck in the old plant-based paradigm, as I call it. And the new plant-based paradigm, there's slews of science. Matter of fact, on the Real Truth About Health this year, you're actually going to see, I'm going to do cooked versus raw and all of the data and science that shows you, hands down, cooked plant-based diets are not that healthy for you and certainly will not lower your A1C if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, even cooked grains and vegetables, potatoes, all of that stuff. Got to go. Lisa, treatment for staph, of course. Staph infection, like most other things, come from the internal, not the external. And this is something that we would use silver on, hyperbaric chambers on, and external salves and internal consumption of things like neem cream. These are effective. Now, if you're out there drinking booze, yes, organic or not, or eating sugar, or eating lots of fruit, you have a hard time with it. Because all of those things are like putting gasoline on a fire when you have staph infection. Nor, could you tell us more about your cancer program and what to expect? So we are the #1 cancer program in the world. Our co-worker, Dr. Jan Ranicky, is an MD, PhD, who worked for a quarter of a century with a man that created modern visualization. He was an oncologist. And when he left back about 45 years ago, mainstream medicine, because he felt he was harming people from the treatment protocols he was giving them as an oncologist, he started to focus in on getting people to look and visualize it themselves being well. And lo and behold, he and Dr. Jan went all over the planet Earth and helped tens of thousands of people reverse. And so between Dr. Jan, Anna Marie, and I, we have 168 years of experience working with people with cancer. We have the latest technologies. We're the only people in the United States that have these technologies that are non-invasive for it. And it is a 1-month program. Remember, this is a serious problem, so you need serious time and serious effort and serious knowledge and education. And so if you're serious about getting rid of it, as I said, serious for the 9th time, this is the place to come. No fusing. What is, that's some name. I don't know if that's a welder. What is the best natural treatment for male sexual dysfunction? Pretty girls. Now, I'm joking, but it's a serious problem. In this country, Canada, and most of Western Europe, young men in their 40s, not in their 40s, but at 40, only 40-year-old men, 50% have erectile dysfunction. Now, if I clog up your arteries, the blood that flows to your brain, heart, and libido, that means genitalia, people. Brain, heart, and genitalia stops flowing. So men do not have erections, women do not climax. And this is a chronic problem. One of the 35 books that Anna Marie and I wrote was called 7 Ways to Lifelong Sexual Vitality. You may want to read that. This gets into this deep dive. But in a short thing, you've got to clean out your veins. There's certain herbal concoctions that we actually use that speed this process up. But going back to something I suggested for a circulatory problem earlier with the collapsed ventricle, was something that you should start tomorrow called Life Gives Circulation Max. And you're actually taking a scoop of that, putting it in water or juice in the morning and in the evening. But if you don't clean up your diet, and by the way, having sex, the more sex you have, even if you attempt to and have a hard time with erections, you're going to have more blood flow come there. Mo Fitz, I love that name. I wish I had a cool name like that. Brian Clement. How about Boo Bop? How to get off steroids? Well, I'll tell you. They make a lot of the steroidal medicines out of fenugreek sprouts. So you know that. Now, why they do that is they want to charge you lots of money for steroids, but they don't want to pay much for what they make it out of. So we've been using fenugreek sprouts here, and you can go out and get fenugreek tinctures, which are 20% as effective, to help to get yourself off the steroids. Now, this is an inflammatory problem. Remember, why you would take a steroid is because you're inflamed. So water is the number one anti-inflammatory. Curcumin, and we have the strongest supplement in the world called LifeGive Curcumin Plus. So for one capsule, we use over 2 pounds, for Europeans, that's over a kilo, of turmeric to take out that much medicine called curcuminoid. And boy, that's effective. You took 3 or 4 of those twice, 3 times a day, you'd be in business. Shane, what's the best way to heal fatty liver? Well, my brother died from that. I wish he listened to me. Fatty liver is, again, if you listen closely to what I said about 8 minutes ago, is when you eat a lot of sugar, your body produces a lot of saturated fat. That's where most people get it. Back 25 years ago, if you'd asked me who has fatty liver, I would have said, and every other doctor would have told you, it was people who drank. Now, today, it's still people who drink, but we now know there's so much sugar consumption today, you don't ever have to drink. You may never had a drink in your life, and you could have fatty liver. And this is easily correctable. And what breaks down fat? We created an enzymatic supplement and then made it into an herbal supplement called Fat Release LifeGive. And that melt-away product is actually going to help to break that down. Now, by the way, you can't eat sugar and eat animal foods and eat candy and eat donuts, organic or not, and expect for that to go away. And let me repeat, my young 51-year-old brother died of this. If you don't correct it, the liver filters the blood thousands of times a day. If you don't filter the blood, you become septic. You become septic, you're not here anymore. Confetti Party Place. Man, these people have hip names. I've got to make some of these names up. My mom has Parkinson's. Can your program help? Yes, we have a program for Parkinson's. So our Dr. Hellman has put a program in here for Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and memory loss. And it is incredibly effective. Do we think this is reversible in the majority of early to moderate stage? Absolutely. Have we seen this in our 70 years? Absolutely. Now we're just doing it on steroids with the latest knowledge and science that's come out in the last 2 to 3 years. Mickey Matthews, another hit name. I think they're making these names up. What helps chronic obstructive pulmonary disease? So this is actually when you have COPD is what it's called. And that's when your lungs aren't working. And many times it's because of scar tissue. You may have had pneumonia not knowing it or knowing it. You may have had viruses time and time again, and the scar tissue's there. The great news is we have an enzyme product that is used in mainstream medicine in Europe. It's just not as strong there. It's called systemic enzymes, LifeGive systemic enzymes. Now, by the way, if you're around smokers, if you're in a fog-filled environment, be it your home or be it your workplace, if you're in a polluted city, if, by the way, people around you are wearing perfumes, you may be having all kinds of reasons these tubes within the lungs are not working, so you've got to make that happen. And you can clean those things out, rebuild them. Those enzymes help to eat away the scar tissue. And then you've got to, of course, clean up your diet. And if some of you are new to this, remember, we are the world's leading authority on lifestyle medicine. We created what's today called lifestyle medicine. So you may want to look into one of our 35 books, either Life Force or for weight loss. You may want to go to the Self-Healing Diet. My newest book, which is going to be out in the next few days, it's the most cutting-edge book for the future of medicine. We'll give you a lot of hope that humanity's not only going to make it, but we're going to thrive, is called Quantum Human. The book that came out 3 months ago is called How to Live to 120. Raise your hand. How many of you want to do that? Hallelujah. And so we teach you all of the things you need to know. There's not a subject we haven't breached because we're not interested in just diet. We're interested in all the factors that keep you young, healthy, vital, and more important than anything else, sexy. Beth, how to get off blood pressure meds? Well, get your blood pressure low. So the first thing you ask a medical doctor is my kidney working? Again, 5%, it's a kidney problem. That's a totally different story. If it's because you have clogged arteries, veins, capillaries, let's give a little understanding of that. Most of your blood go through very microscopic little openings called capillaries. That's about almost 3/4 of your blood go through that. Larger veins are only about 25%. Now, with that said, can you imagine how easy it is to clog those up with bad foods and stress? If you're stressed, if your cortisol levels are high, you're actually going to clog those up. Same thing that you get cataracts from, or coming out of your eyes in that case, are clogging those capillaries and veins. So when we clean them out, circulation max would be terrifically important for that. But we would also employ infrared saunas, a minimum of 20 minutes in there, above 120, ideally 140. That's when the magic happens from all the Scandinavian studies we see. That even why I'm in a sauna every single day doing 1,000 sit-ups, and that's not a joke, 365 days a year, is because it kills viruses, it kills bacteria, it kills cancer, and it also detoxifies you. An infrared sauna, 87% more than a normal sauna, but sometimes when I'm traveling, I take Scandinavian saunas, better than not. Jacquinette, oh my God, Moody, La Francais. Suggestions on dealing with anemia. Well, anemia is usually a B12 deficiency. And don't say, oh, I'm a vegan, that's why. That's what the doctors told me. Let me tell you, I've just finished about 8 months ago a 35-year study on anemia and B12. 8% higher incidence of B12 deficiency with animal food consumers. Bad vegans, which are most vegans, eating crap diets, junk diets, high sugar diets, can get a B12 deficiency too. But inherently, go back to what I said about 12 and a half minutes ago, methylation. Something we didn't know 10, 15 years ago. That some of you genetically inherited the inability to use B12, which is, by the way, not a B vitamin. It is a soil-based microorganism. That's why you have to buy ours. Not because I'm trying to sell you something, because ours is a living bacteria. Everything else you're buying is a chemical knockoff that doesn't really work. And you've got to literally get that to reconstitute your intestinal flora and fauna so that it reproduces a B12 and goes back to what your great-grandfathers and grandmothers had. We don't have that. Can you imagine what we're doing to our bodies now? In the United States, we have 10,000 chemicals. Your so supportive government allows them to put in food that destroy the gut bacteria. They use antibiotics like candy. And needless to say, all the other crap you're eating and preservatives. So you want to get the B12, take it at least twice a day, temporarily out of Switzerland, but you get it all over the world. I've never been anywhere. Floridex, which is a plant-based extract of iron, to get that up again. And there is about an 87 to 88% likelihood within 3 to 7 months you will no longer have anemia. Now, by the way, eating green leafy vegetables are going to be a big help too. Once you cook them, finito, doesn't work. Michelle, what causes warts? They're viruses. And how can you get rid of them? I'm going to give you a really silly thing, but that works. How many of you know what duct tape is? That silver stuff that you wrap around piping. I want you to get duct tape, make it really small, and put it securely over the wart. Let it sit there. It's going to smother it, take away the oxygen supply, and within about 5 to 8 days, depending upon the individual and how deep the roots are, you're going to pull it off, and lo and behold, that viral wart is going to be gone. They don't want you to know that. They put some big schlock on there that costs a lot of money otherwise. George, look at that. He made that up. George P. Can you imagine what a beautiful name that is? Hello, Brian. How to cure for good arthritis? Well, the same thing we talked about osteo, rheumatoid is even easier. Osteo is inside of the bone. Rheumatoid is in the joints and more so exterior. But one of the things I neglected to say, because we're trying to rush through this today, give you all the information I possibly can in a short, concise time, is at my wife's Anna Maria Center, it was called Brendel in Stockholm, Sweden. They were using organic white potato juice, raw, of course, to reverse it. Now, ironically, if you cook a potato, it actually creates through nightshades arthritis. It doesn't create, that's the wrong thing. It feeds, it expedites the growth of it. So inversely, what raw white potato juice does is it sucks away all of the acidity and components that actually break down the joints and bone structures of the body. Remember, animal foods have 3 bone and joint degrading acids in it that if you put your hand into a container with that in it, you'd see your flesh starting to be eaten away. Now, this isn't my expose on it. This is a scientific fact I'm giving you at this point. So what we have to do is do that. Now, how you do it, when you juice it in a slow-turning good juicer, like a wheatgrass type of juicer, let it settle for about a minute. And all the starch is going to get on the bottom. It's going to be grossing you out. You can't even put your finger through that starch. It's like a blended chalk up. You let that be at the bottom and you drink the potassium and mineral-rich top that actually will help to erase all forms of arthritic conditions. Blake, well, I know that name, is coming to the Institute once a year enough to keep myself consistently healthy. How can I continue lifestyle at home? Well, it's quite simple. If you come here, learn, we're a teaching institute. We want to support you. We want to get you to the place where you don't need us anymore. But guess what? 80% of our guests return here. So 80% of the alumni that have come here for 70 years come back because they love it. They want to be in the environment. They want to be with the tribe. If you continue this when you go home, coming back to be with the tribe, you need once a year. If you don't continue, you may need more than once a year. That means you keep falling off. Remember, we don't want you to become babies and we're the nipple. We want to get you to the point where we breastfeed you. Now you're a grown adult. Now you're out doing it on your own. And why we love that is you're a walking, talking, living example of what everyone else can do to squash aging as I did and prevent and reverse disease like hundreds of thousands have done here for 7 decades. Well, we're going to wrap up now. I wish I had more time. You had great questions today. None of them tricked me. If I was ever tricked, I'd let you know, and they'd get a big award. We'd send you a 1 gallon of wheatgrass to implant at that point. Till next time, next month, just keep your eyes open. We don't know when we're going to do it because our schedules are so busy, and I'm traveling, lecturing, writing books, having fun, and enjoying every second of life as I hope you are. See you soon.